Hi guys, I'm Gospelondebeatz, a music executive, music producer, entertainment consultant, and I'm on Simple TV. Okay, well, growing up, for me, I would say it's a bit emotional and with a heart of gratitude because I grew up in a neighborhood where you would say, face me, I face you kind of, neighborhood. And went to a primary school that we all sat on the floor to learn. And only the teacher had desk, incomplete building or what you call uncompleted building, So growing up in that kind of neighborhood and seeing lots of poverty and suffering, and yet in a family that believes so much in God and also taught me how to be contented with the things that they provided. I grew up in a very happy home, even though you would say from that kind of background. But then I realized that this type of peace and happiness that I experienced growing up in my parents' house, but then looking at so much poverty around the neighborhood and realized that the things that you would say, like just wanting more wasn't possible or seemed impossible. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to take all of this, but then I want to be able to, in this same lifetime, experience what it feels like to be on the other side of the chain, and I would say my parents really helped me, to achieve some of these things that I never thought, would be possible, especially as a teenager, introducing me to different books, and my mom would always force me to read a book every birthday. She would buy me a motivational book and ensures that I complete it before the next birthday. And by the time she started it from when I was 13 years old, and by the time I was 19, I realized that I had read books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich. I read books like The Purpose Driven Life, and a whole lot of motivating books, and that kind of shaped my mind and my perception towards life. And I realized that, oh yeah, in as much as I must have been born into a poor background, but I don't necessarily have to create a family from poverty moving forward, So it shaped my mind to be able to attack everything I ventured in. And it actually helped me a great deal in my music production career, and it's still helping me even till tomorrow. Yeah, I grew up in a place called Nyanya in Abuja. Big shout out to all my friends from Nyanya. I went to school in Nyanya. I did everything as a child and teenager, back then in Nyanya until, I then moved. And for me, I just wasn't comfortable with staying there anymore. I just felt like, okay, this place is good, but let me just look for a way out of this whole experience. I'm from Imo State, yeah. So I would say I'm Igbo, but then I didn't grow up in the East. I grew up more in the North. Well, the music journey for me began when I was 7 years old. Actually, that was when I learned how to play the drums. I kind of just picked interest in learning how to play the drums, and that was just because the music director in my church then just threw a joke saying that, oh, you're here playing while your mates are out there drumming. And I was like, my mates drumming now? I was 7 years at the time. And I just said to him, do you think I can do that? He said yes. And I popped on a question, can you teach me how to do that? And he said yes. And that was how the interest, grew from playing drums to keys. And yeah, so I would say music for me started when I was 7 years old. Being a pastor's kid, growing up, it was just more of gospel music, So I grew up being greatly influenced by gospel music, lots of them and lots of them. And for me, that was my biggest influence, until I now delved into music production and realized that, oh, now as a producer, I'm going to be working with a lot of artists from different, walks of life, genres, different music types and, music patterns. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to put and invest in that time to be able to now study other genres beyond gospel music. But I would say I was greatly influenced by gospel music. Okay, so the thing I would say, gospel is my real name. I believe my parents set me up with that, because they are pastors. So and I when I started my career as a music producer, I realized that in this industry, you have to have some sort of a stage name, a name that makes you stand out, that is different, a name that when you search on Google, you will just pop up. And I was like, I can't remember knowing too many people with the name gospel. And I just felt like the name gospel is, already unique and different in its own way. And I just felt like, what, why not just take that identity into the professional music world and just, be called gospel. And plus, I mean, I love the meaning of the name, and like we all know, the meaning of one's name goes a long way in terms of interpreting the person's vision and destiny. And I just felt like, why change something that has been given to me from birth that has such a great meaning, and I'm like, gospel means good news, so it's more or less like preaching the good news of music, so I decided to stick with the name. I feel being spontaneous works for me a great deal because I do not second guess that first idea that comes to me, So I liked most times that first, idea that drops, it comes from that spirit realm. I'm a very spiritual person and I do not second guess it. Once I feel it, I go straight into it. So, and also I just, I love to just, take from that first feeling. I like to stick it on from there. When I delved into music production, the first person I got highly influenced by is TY Mix. Big shout out to TY Mix. TY Mix actually gave me the opportunity to learn under him as a mentee. He actually taught me music production. But then as I grew in my music production career and journey, and I became so much inspired by Don Jazzy. I could remember a time, back in the days where I picked up One Day Cole's Motion to More Hit album produced by Don Jazzy, and I scored literally all the beats. I kind of remade all the beats from track 1 to the last track. And of course, Cobams is another person that I'm highly inspired and motivated by, So these were people that greatly influenced and inspired me, in my music production career, And beyond Nigeria, the likes of Timbaland, Quincy Jones, Dr. Dre, these are people that greatly also influenced my sound and also inspired me in my music production career. My first major break in the music industry, I would say, is the production of Davido's All of You. And for me, that song was such a blessing at the time when I was opportune to meet Davido in Abuja. And I just walked straight to him and I was like, hi, my name is Gospel. I'm a music producer. I work in one of the best studios in Abuja and I would love to be in the studio with you. Let's make magic. And he just said, sure, send me the address and I'll pull through. The rest is history. And I would say that song really, launched me internationally. Okay, so it depends. My creative process in the studio would be, I love to actually have a sit down with the artist one-on-one and let's talk, let's chat. Because the truth about it is, I believe the artist already has already has an idea. Might not be able to professionally interpret it with the actual, production words and terms that a producer would understand. So that way I just start to, gist with the artist, get into conversation. I want to get into the world of the artist. I want to understand the music background of the artist and beyond even the music background, life in general, because I believe that music should be an expression of who we are, our personality, our beliefs, what we stand for, our experiences, background, and all of that. So I like to get into that world of the artist and understand where the artist is coming from, both in life and also the musical journey of the artist. Understand where the artist is at the moment, then also understand where the artist wants to take his or her sound and message to. So by the time we are in that, conversation, and we're bonding, and I'm getting to understand all of this, then it just drops. It's like magic, I would say, but I would say it's an inspiration from God, and something that just, at that moment, I then begin to find a sound that best describe, what the artist stands for, the personality of the artist, the vocal strength of the artist, the range, and all of that. Then from certain questions that I pop, like just throw to the artist, the idea comes, and I just, and for me, in that session, trust is built in a way that the artist then begins to feel a bit more comfortable with me, and faith is also built in such a way that the artist believes that whatever gospel gives to him or her, trust me, it's what it is. First, I would say, and I don't mean to say it in a very cliche way, but I would say it is God that has actually helped me this far, and personally, I would say one of the things that, because God helps everybody, but then God cannot do for you what you need to do for yourself. I just feel like we as humans need to be able to meet God halfway. So it's like, do your best and leave the rest for Him, like they say. So personally, part of doing my own part, I would say, is living every day with the intentionality of becoming the best version of myself. No matter how good you are, there's always another level called better, and as music producers, songwriters, artists, once we can be able to live every day with that consciousness of being the best versions of ourselves, personally, I'm always in the studio working. I'm trying to look out for new sounds. And I'm not just jumping on what is raining now, but I'm looking at, like, having foresight, researching, reading books, finding mentors that can help you grow, and just keeping your ears fresh, it takes a very conscious daily work of you just developing yourself every day to become the better version of yourself. So for me, I would say this is one of the keys that has really helped me to just kind of stay relevant in the game. First is the love for it, and also the determination to keep developing yourself every day and grow. Personally, I don't know if this is a general thing, but personally, I feel one of the most difficult, one of the most difficult things rather, being a music producer is getting your works out there. And when I say getting your works out there, now I know that there are lots of songs that I have produced that are still on the system. Yeah, because now when the artists decide they want to release, now that the music will be heard, so every day I'm in the studio working with different artists. I know how hard I work, believing in, new artists, established artists, and we're all working. But at the end of the day, the artist decides, or the label decides, which songs are being released. But then it doesn't stop me from working. But I would say that's one of the most challenging things. I just wish that everything that, we create as music producers, get the opportunity to be heard out there. I started alternate sound in 2015, actually, and I've always had the love for live stage, because first things first, I became a musician and an instrumentalist before I became a music producer. So as a music producer, I've always had that same love for live music and just performing on stage, and I just felt like, what, there's a big vacuum in terms of how best an artist's live performance can be on stage. And for me, it was just more of identifying a problem and creating a solution. And I would say, what was the problem? We all know that for an artist to replicate great performance and production on stage, normally they will need like about 8 to 10 band members on stage. And I just felt like, okay, most of these artists don't get paid enough to be able to fly all of these number of people around the world. And of course, for the promoters, it was a major challenge because a promoter then puts an event together and has like about 5 headliners. Now imagine flying 5 artists with at least 8 to 10 man band, So it was something I realized at the point that, okay, how about I put a group of people together, say just 4 of us, cut down the number of band members from that number to at least 4. No, now that is making it a smaller unit. Then beyond that, we're in a technology-driven age. Why not take advantage of that to say, you know what, for the band members now that were cutting down on stage, how about we use technology to augment that, So it was more like pre-record those instruments, get on stage and activate all of that with a software that kind of still gives the audience that heavy sound that they're already used to on the artist records. So that was literally what, we did at the time, and we started. Was it easy? No, it wasn't. Like every other idea that one starts, but then with perseverance and hard work and the belief in it, and also believing in the solution that we also provided, just made it easier. And it was just a matter of time, and I guess the rest is history. Yeah, I would say as a music producer, right, there are different, fields of investment within the entertainment industry. And for me personally, I just feel like there are a whole lot of aspects of the entertainment industry that I'm greatly gifted, in with the skills and even with the potential. So for me, being in the studio was just one of it. Then transitioning into taking production from studio to a live stage was something else I was greatly, interested in. I was excited about it. I was also gifted in it, and I just feel like that kind of helped me stay relevant. Because at the end of the day, it's music. Whether you're in the studio producing or you're on stage playing what is being produced, you're still in the music business, you're still in the music industry. So as a producer, I feel like there are so many other ways I want to be able to express this gift of music that God has blessed me with, and we're only just getting started, actually. Yeah, so getting on the Budweiser Smooth King remix project, for me, I would say that's a huge blessing, because I don't know, amongst, lots of producers that I greatly respect out there, I was picked or chosen to be part of the project as a producer and a music director. So I personally feel, first, it was a blessing. Secondly, it was so exciting to actually work with new artists, because then I learned a whole lot of new stuff from these new boys, these new artists, I would say, and also such even a huge privilege to be remixing songs that I grew up listening to and even started my music career jamming to, and learning all of this. And I'm now sitting in the studio with the privilege to now reproduce and create a remix out of these songs. I feel it's such a great blessing, and it was, for me, great experience, great learning process, and also, meeting these new artists and bouncing off ideas. Of course, it's not a political answer. I'm serious. I'm not. I'm not going to give a political answer. But the truth about it is, as a producer, I tend not to have favorites, and I'll tell you why. It's simple. I love to open myself up to the possibilities and the opportunities to get into every artist's world. I would say every artist is unique, every artist is different. Every music genre is unique in its own way as well, So as a producer, I open myself up to the several possibilities of the different types of sounds and creativity that can come out from working with these different artists. And that's also my key to staying relevant, because the truth about it is there could be a trend raining down and everybody starts to jump on it. While that is interesting and that is good, personally, I feel like I want to be able to produce different styles and different genres of music, and you can almost feel like, gospel, which is your best, which is your favorite? And I'll tell you that bring any type of music and I'll kill it in the studio. I'll produce it because I feel like that's the best way to actually stay relevant for a long time. And that's actually having foresight as a music producer. I think it's pretty much easy as a music producer because now, being a music producer, there are different positions, in that one position. Now, a music producer could also be a music director in the session. A music producer could also be a recording engineer in the session. A music producer can also be, a co-writer or even a songwriter, or even a backup singer. So all of this, I would say, as a music producer, it's very important to understand the business of your craft in a way that you are able to separate all of these positions and get the necessary compensation that is due these positions, So, but personally, how I work it out is I'm very intentional with the roles I play. But then because of my purpose, which is literally helping people achieve their own success and their own purpose and vision, I tend to overlook a whole lot of things in the studio. I would say I'm that guy that just, you can pay me to just come in and record the session, but I can get in there and I feel like I'm hearing a sound that needs to be added, I will change. And I will change it and not tell you, oh, I could produce, give me a split sheet for it. Even though business-wise, that's what's supposed to happen because being part of split sheets and royalties and publishing, has a whole lot to do with contributors, in that session, be it a songwriter or a co-writer or, the performing artist or the music producer or even the instrumentalist, which is probably like a session guitarist or saxophone. I mean, if you don't know your rights, you won't even know how to benefit from, a recording session. But I will say, throwing it out there, I just feel like everybody needs to do well in terms of, everybody, it's something that everybody needs to partake in and share. I've had situations or seen situations most times where artists don't want to give producers their royalties. It's just something that is unfair. Let me even just put it out there. I feel like it's really unfair when an artist sits and would want to deprive a music producer, of that royalty. At the end of the day, whether you're paying for that production or not, these are producers that are working very hard to ensure that you get the best out of that recording session. And you don't expect the producer to always want to be in that position forever. And growth, to me, is when we look out for each other and give to that producer what the producer deserves, especially the publishing, their royalty, especially giving them percentage on that split that is due them. Most artists tend to want to use their star power, to override, young and upcoming producers. I would say it's very painful. It has happened to me a lot of times before while growing up as a producer. And I tend to realize that the trend is most of these artists always go to new producers that don't know their rights, just so that they can keep depriving. I feel it's wickedness, and I feel like it's high time we started to change our ways and look out for new producers and try to build the industry. The truth about it is that there are different factors, that need to be considered when it comes to stating who the greatest artist is. And when you say greatest now, it depends from what time to what time, what demography or in terms of age. So I feel in as much as there are different factors, different award categories and award bodies we use in their own way, right? Personally, I do not tend to want to concern myself with all of that. I believe in everybody literally just focusing on themselves and being the best version of themselves. The truth about it is, like we know, the sky is big enough for everybody to actually become a star. But when you're not focused on becoming the best version of yourself and literally harnessing those gifts that God has blessed you with, that in turn can feed you and your generation for life, right? Then you start to get distracted by what the other person is doing. And the truth about it is that the game of life, even in this industry, is like a race. And you do not win your own race looking at the next person running. and we're all running our own individual races. So I just feel like we have to consciously understand that from that standpoint and build ourselves to be able to become the greatest that God has created us to be. I would say Nigerians are highly blessed, I would say, because just having this diversity of languages and ethnic groups and all of that, that also comes with the music and the sound. And as a music producer, when you dig really deep into the Nigerian sound and culture, you would find lots and lots of expressions of that unique sound, and especially in drums and percussion, and I would say it's an inborn thing, especially when you're being blessed with the gift to be a music producer and that's your purpose. You then begin to find that inborn ability to harness this sound. And like I said, for the percussion and for the drums, it's inborn, and I just feel like once you're willing to tap into it as a producer, you find it easily. So I'm currently planning to release my first book, and it's called The Producer. And this book has been on my mind for the past 3 years. Actually, I've been working on it with my team, and I'm so excited that finally we're set to release the book. And the book is not teaching anybody how to produce. I mean, that you can learn online, you can learn, via YouTube. But then I've been so passionate about helping creatives understand the journey, between their potential and skill, and also where they consider success. Because success is relative to whoever wants to succeed. Once you can follow those principles, in no time you then start to see the results that you anticipate, that you expect, and you then grow into a place that you consider success for you. So I'm really excited to be sharing with the world, all of those principles and knowledge from my years of experience. No actual date yet, and apart from that, I'm also working on a lot of music projects with a lot of artists. I'm just passionate about supporting new artists, and I've been in the studio with a lot of great new artists, and also I've got the Gospelondebeatz album completed and soon to be released. You'll get to know the date when. The Gospelondebeatz album is actually an album to look out for. For the sound, I would say it's a more futuristic sound, but then still blended with what everybody is used to. Because at the end of the day, it's still the music business, right? And you don't want to just introduce a whole different new sound and not. For me, it's Afrofusion. So we're fusing what we're used to with what seems to be like a futuristic sound. And on the album, I've only got new artists, because for me, like I said, I'm passionate about putting new artists on. So it's an album that actually gives a platform for new artists to be able to express themselves in their own unique, different sound. I believe greatly in the movement, that Afrobeat has started. The truth about it is, the world doesn't know what has just hit them, and that is because it is Afrobeat, right? But then Amapiano has taken off as well. Guess what? How many countries do we have in Africa? How many sounds do we have in Africa? So Afrobeat, yes, might have been the pioneer, but then Amapiano is what Amapiano is doing from South Africa, and then there are lots of other sounds that will hit, the globe as well. And it's such a great time to be alive, to understand that we're only just getting started. Okay, between the last 3 years and now, I would say that the acceptance of Afrobeat has been amazing. Yeah, of course, you can be able to tell from the numbers, thanks to technology and the digital age, which is streaming, era. And that has just given us the opportunity to be heard globally. And I would say from pre-COVID to COVID and to post-COVID, it has just been that acceleration and of that global recognition, and people just accepting Afrobeat. To be honest, I'm just that guy that has always loved corporate outfit, because I started off in church, and I remember being a choir member, they would always force us to wear suits and all of that. And I just felt like, okay, I mean, it's cool. I love how it looks on me. And I mean, since then, I've just been like that. Just that entertainment industry, they will always tell you, if you're going to record in the studio, you need to look like the artist, because I mean that's the concept of image branding, which is just. But then on a normal day, this is how I love to appear and start my day. Hi guys, I'm Gospelondebeatz, your favorite music producer. Keep watching Simple TV.